Hey fellas, Mr. Chamberlain here. Good to see you. How's everybody doing? Good to hear. I think Mr. Daniels is covering the class for me today. Shout out to Mr. Daniels for helping me out. Thank you, Mr. Daniels. Awesome. Now that we've covered that, let's get down to business. Some of you are probably lucky that I'm not there today. If I'd come to class today, I would have referred back to the reading that I asked you to do last day, which was this PDF here, which is on Social Studies Identity Unit Readings right here. And I would have asked you to all to stand up if you'd done every single page of the reading. And those that stood up would be allowed to stay, and the rest of you would be kicked out of the class. It was my opportunity to send a message that I'm not really concerned with your jet lag or how tired you are because we're back from Christmas break, but you need to get on with work. I would wager that that would be a good portion of you. So you need to sort that out. So no matter what I say you're going to do today, your priority today is to finish those readings. So if you haven't finished those readings, when I'm done this video, you're going to open those readings and finish those readings. Once you finish those readings, you're going to come back to this, which is our Friday, January 12th post on the Canvas page. If I was there, we would have started by opening up this PowerPoint right here, and opening it up and having a look at what that has to say. That has to do with showing you or learning about ways that Canada as a society or as a government have taken steps to promote and sustain Canadian culture. Now, if you'd done the readings in preparation for today, you would have learned about the CRTC, the CBC, the National Film Board, and the Canada Council for the Arts. Okay, if you'd done the readings. Okay, so once that's all done, you can open up this PowerPoint and you spend some time reading about the different ways that Canada has taken efforts to protect Canadian culture and art in a situation with particularly around TV and radio and media that is dominated by America. So if we looked all the way back here, the CBC, prior to being a television station, was a radio station. One of the main problems there was that American radio tended to dominate the Canadian airwaves. And so Canada started taking steps to ensure that there would be Canadian content available for people to hear. Now, with the CBC, or with any Canadian television station for that matter, there's a certain amount of Canadian content that has to be played. And if you look here, whether it's radio or television or private television broadcasters or even Netflix has to contain a certain amount of Canadian content, otherwise they wouldn't have a license to be available here in Canada. The reason we get TSN and not ESPN is because Canada won't allow ESPN to be broadcast in Canada because it would compete with things like TSN or Sportsnet or these things. So these are things that Canada has done to protect Canada products, arts, and culture. Okay, the National Film Board, they sponsor or give money to people making movies. This is the Canada Council for the Arts that helps to prop up artists and other people who are doing uniquely Canadian cultural things. Okay, how do we finish that? Have we done that? Well, what happened is I would have had you open up this document right here, which is two articles, one talking about cutting funding for the CBC and another one about keeping funding for the CBC, because 2014, just a few short years ago, when your boy Stephen Harper was in power, he was growing quite tired of the CBC and the fact that they kept attacking him. So he started cutting their funding. And he started cutting their funding, justifying it by saying he was going to spend it on the military. So there became a movement to sort of save the CBC. And so if you read those two articles, they'll sort of show you sort of both sides of the argument. And while you're reading those two articles, I want you to keep a separate document on the side, and you're going to write down four things. One, what are some assumptions that that author has made? Do you find one thing that you agree with that the author says, something you'd like to argue the author about, and something you'd like to aspire to know more about? So you don't have to go into too much detail, but in 1, 2, 3, and 4 for each article. And before you even start reading the articles, look up who wrote them and where they're from, so you can start to understand the biases and where that author is coming from. Okay, you can drop those four assumptions, the assumptions, the agree, the argue, and the aspire. For each article, you can drop that into your portfolio, so I can see that you've done some work today. If you get far enough to depending on how well you do, Mr. Daniels is welcome to lead a discussion on whether the CBC should be privatized or whether the Canadian government should be funding projects to promote Canadian culture and cultural initiatives. Okay, this is your reading for next day. Okay, along with that PDF reading that you should have finished for today, and that reading next day on Tuesday, we'll be doing a quiz. Okay, so get up on it. If you have any questions, email me directly or ask your classmates. They may actually understand what I've been saying. Hope all is well, and I'll see you guys Tuesday. Have a great weekend.